Do you like to have a plan before you go into action? Do you feel like you need to prove something? Is that sword a little big for you? You could be a page of swords. Hi, party people. It's me, Taylor Ellis, the creator of the Ellis Deck Tarot and the Tarot of the Starbound Phantasia. And today we're going to be going over the Page of Swords. Each suit of the tarot has an element, and the element of the swords card is air. Now, when we take the court cards, each one has its own element, kind of like personality or state of being. So we take the kings and make that fire. The queens are water. The knights are air, and then the pages that we're talking about today are earth. So in the case of the swords, we say that the page of swords is earth of air. And so that would be like earth, material matters, and then air, kind of intellect and ideas. So the page is like they want to see proof of the idea. They want to see what you say come to fruition. They're not going to so much believe in your words as they are going to appreciate your actions. They're going to learn something and want to go test it out, or if they have a theory or a hypothesis on something, that's not going to be enough for them. They're going to need to see that in action. Um, and if you think about like earth and air, if we're going to kind of imagine an environment and apply that to a personality, think about like a dust storm or a sandstorm. What is that like? That's we're getting stuff in our eyes. It's getting in our teeth. It's getting all over everything. You don't really want to be out in it, and that can kind of be the personality of our page of swords, is they can be a little taxing to be around, because especially if we're someone of comfort or someone that maybe likes to dance around a subject. They're coming right in with it and they're not going to let up. Another example, think about something like the Grand Canyon or any feature like where the rock has been shaped by air, where something that seems like just a little guy, just this air, just this breeze, but centuries, unrelented centuries of this breeze have shaped the Grand Canyon. It's not small potatoes after a long period of time. So we can continue with that earth of air imagery, and apply it to Crowley's chart in 777, where he gives each of these little interplays in I Ching correspondence. And for him, earth of air is 18, which is decay. And so that is the trigram of wind underneath the trigram of mountain. And so we would think about a wind eroding a mountain from above, or if we look at the two yin lines of mountain, and we could say that this is something that has kind of been eaten from the inside out, or something that through stagnation has kind of become poisoned. And it's pretty common in most I Ching translations to say in 18 that you are to spend 3 days identifying the problem, and then another 3 days coming up with a solution to the problem, and then getting after it. Which again, that's something our page of swords would be doing. He'd say, why are we sitting around with this problem? Let's fix this. Why are we tolerating this? And so you'd be creating a strategy for this process. Benabel Wynn says that dogma causes degeneration, and again, that's the page going. Why are we doing it this way again? What is the because we've always done it this way. Well, we've always done it this way, and this is what we ended up with. So it sounds like it's time to change it. And a little bit of that childlike honesty. Maybe you think that you've dressed up in a way that isn't really you, and you think that you're like, oh, this is really I look really cool or something like that. I look just like Joe Cool Hat on the Cool Hat Show. And then you go outside, and there's the page of swords, and he's like, you look like an idiot. And there it is. You're like, I knew I looked like an idiot, but I was tricking myself. Well, that the Page of Swords isn't going to let that happen. And she says, kind of from these rebirths, we actually generate great power. It's like, well, we took the problem all the way apart and we rebuilt it from a stronger core. And for a little tidbit of astrology, if we use T. Susan Chang's Tarot Correspondences book, which I do, we see that the page is 0 to 29 degrees of Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. And so from Capricorn, they're getting kind of ambition, like a tactical mindset. From Aquarius, they can be kind of pioneering, but a little hot headed. Which a lot of times the pioneers are a little hot-headed. They're like, well, it's dumb here, let's go see what else is going on. With Pisces, that's where they can be intuitive and sensitive, and that can lead to that other side of the Page of Swords, where they do like to have a strategy and a plan, but if you poke them in the chest just right, they just come right after you and don't think about it. The pages are a little bit more of like the receptacle of power, where they get a little bit of each of the others. Like, for example, like the king might teach the page statecraft, how to build a kingdom or strategize, or the right way to let things play out. When to be overbearing and when to let things do what they're going to do. The queen is going to teach the page compassion, which separates like our warriors from our thugs. Like someone that's strong, but knows what happens when they do the things they do, is the warrior. Somebody that just shoots somebody because they can, is a thug. And then the knight is going to be the one that actually teaches the page the martial skills of the sword suit. They're going to kind of be the Batman to their Robin almost. So instead of it being like, oh, they rule over the sign at this time so much, they rule over more like a season. And with the swords, we think of that like winter. And so that's like truth laid bare, like numbers coming home to roost. It's winter for us in like the northern hemisphere, is like the end of the year. You see how much money you made that year. That's a lot of times when we tally up our efforts, and uh, if we're the reflective sort, we see what worked and what didn't. Yeah, or you could think of like, when all the leaves are off the trees, sometimes you see like the landscape without foliage, where um, suppose there was like, I don't know, a building that you thought was pretty cool looking, and then once all the leaves are gone, you realize that was all fluff and it's more or less a dump. Um, it's you see how people are like charitable or calloused in the winter time. Like if you see how people treat people that are out in the cold, it's do you walk by them without a moment's thought, or do you stop and see if there's anything at all you can do to help them? And so the cold and the winter really brings out truth a lot of the time. So the first card we'll start with then is going to be the Ellis deck, Page of Swords. And so we'll start with what he's wearing. He's got a purple jacket on, and so the purple is like the crown chakra, or like the spiritual awareness. And so we would think of that like Zen, where it's more like who you are and what you're doing is your spirituality, more so than assigning somewhere that's later on, like an afterlife or another dimension, or something in that way. It's more here and now is God. And he's wearing this red pauldron. Thanks to the Mandalorian, we all know what a pauldron is. That's shoulder armor, and the red is also accented in the sword handle, and so that's more of our root chakra. That's like the physical world. So it's actually like the physical need to defend yourself is there. And he's not wearing as much armor as like the Knight of Swords. He's not as bought into this yet, and also he's a little more mobile, a little more flexible. He can still change his beliefs, you could almost say. And then that takes us to the blackbird that's sitting on his shoulder, and the birds are representing the element itself. They fly on the air, and the crow and the raven, those are smart birds. They're birds that learn. They're birds that are loyal. They're birds that remember things. And this one, he's kind of come on, let's get going. It's a little bit, the animals in the court cards are kind of the way that they relate to the character in the court cards is a little bit kind of like how the instinct is at this stage. And so the page is again sort of trying to curb this instinct of having to get out there and do the thing until they really know what they want to do. And sometimes they can overcome that instinct, and sometimes that instinct is getting the better of them. um, and he's looking at the sword. This sword is huge. Like we said, he is approaching this road. The pages are always knocking on the door of the castle. They're about to get started. So the sword is huge. It's like knowledge is power. Knowledge is responsibility. Once you know something, you have the responsibility of knowing it. And he's looking through that little hoop at the end of the handle of the sword. He's seeing what his life is going to be like once he takes up this path of the sword. And it's like, if we go through all the way to the king, we see if this is the same person, that's the eye that he's looking through the sword with is the one that he gets to keep. The other one is traded out. He lost it in battle. He traded it for knowledge. This is a path that's going to change him. And I mean, I guess that they all do, but this is one where once you enter into conflict and either physical combat or challenging ideas, you're not the same person at the end of that tunnel. And so looking at his face, we see that there's like a little bit of determination and a little bit of fear there as well. It's like he's mustering up that resolution, and his eyes are colored white. That's like, we're not, the situation is not colored through a lens. The air aspect is seeing things as they are. And then lastly, we have that pink psychic energy in the background, and we can kind of see how it's a little bit scattered. Like we said, this is kind of the young, possibly troubled individual. They're they're smart. They're smart guys, the pages of swords, guys and gals, but there's trouble brewing. There's something, they're not comfortable. They are going to have to be an agent of change, and they kind of know it. Then, of course, along comes the Starbound Phantasia page, and he's a little different from the other guy. This one, I wanted to illustrate a little bit more of the petulant nature of your page. He's standing on like broken crystal, where it's like this wasteful force, but at the same time, he's created this vantage point. It's like he has the high ground, and again, that's another part of the page, is that like you are going to be taking on something bigger than you, and you've got to have a plan for that, because it can't just be overcome with brute force. And while they have used it, they've used it in a cunning way. They've created a place where they can stand and strategize. His skin is like this gray cold color. He's not a warm individual. You could say that he's hot blooded, but he's gonna kind of have again like that Capricorn aspect of maybe not easily impressed, or not super warm personally. Um, the pink hair is like again that pink color of like the psychic or the intellect, and once again we have the white eyes looking at the uncolored situation, and this one kind of has a menacing, angry expression, and there's again a warning in this card to control these destructive impulses and passions. And that's echoed again in his sword. If we look at the different cards in the sword suit, we see that some of them have like a blue colored crystal blade, and some of them have a red colored crystal blade, and that red is like symbolizing when the mind is troubled, or we've become enraged, and we aren't necessarily using the higher functions of the mind, but we're kind of maybe going back to like an instinct, like the idea of seeing red. And so the handle is accented by a stinging insect like a bee or a hornet or a wasp. And it's like a creature of inherent intelligence. They build hives, they have roles, they sting for defense, they have hierarchies. So they're obviously not, the be all to end all of intelligence, but they have the beginnings of it, the beginning stages of civilization almost. Um, and the blade is again containing like a storm cloud. It's this barely contained passion. We see that again. We look at the king of this deck, and they have it as well, but it's held within a blue blade, where it's accessible, but it's under control. Whereas at this point of development, that's all that the page is working with. They have not quite tamed their will. Their clothing is ornate. They're likely to think highly of themselves. You could definitely think of this as like the arrogant prince, maybe. Definitely someone that's likely to like lash out. They the cape is this earthly red. Think about it like the cape that a bullfighter would have, or almost like the idea like if you see a mountain lion, you're supposed to make yourself appear bigger. It's sort of something soft, but being used as part of combat. Again, they have like this martial intelligence and ability, but maybe their ability to control themselves or their emotions is not quite there yet. The intellect has not quite conquered the heart. Or maybe they're still on like Tim Leary's whole Second Circuit reptile brain at this point. It's either good or bad, and like when someone talks about the idea, oh, we're going after the bad guys, and it's like that's kind of a troubling phrase, because who are we just labeling as like a cartoon villain, and the page might be somebody that's easily lured into maybe that kind of more binary thinking. The Page of Swords is never a boring character. They're going to challenge taboos if the taboos are going to prohibit their own agenda. Um, they're going to make plans, and then they're not just going to sit on those plans. They will see them through to the end. And lastly, they're going to tell you the truth. They won't hold back. You always know where you stand with the Page of Swords. You made it to the end. I like to save this part to the end so you don't click off my video immediately. If you didn't click off my video immediately, thank you for watching the whole thing. You can hit like and subscribe for free, and I would really love that. If you didn't want to hit like, maybe tell me why in the comments. I'm cool with that. I'm a big boy. Also, if you want to support me any further, you can go over to illustrations.net, check out what I've been working on. You can go over to bigcartel.illustrations.com, buy one of the tarot decks that I've made. You can hop over to Spreadshirt and buy some on demand prints of any of the cards in either deck. Also, if you see any product on there that you would like to see some of my art on, hit me up. I'll make it happen. Another thing I don't always talk about is there is an app for the Ellis deck. If the deck itself is out of your price range right now, but you still dig it, there's a company called Fool's Dog, and they're very good artists and tarot deck creators. And they made an app out of the Ellis deck that you can use. It's got a lot of different spreads. It has an explore mode where you can look at HD versions of each card. It's got a journal. You can keep track of every reading you've ever done. And I kind of like to use it for my dailies, to be honest. It's really handy if I don't have to bust out the deck. It's fun to have those morning rituals, but sometimes you got to get going, or, maybe you're in a coffee shop in a part of town where you don't want everybody seeing you've got some tarot cards on you. But hey, that's all I've got for you today. Love you lots. Happy reading.